Hi, Pete's fans. Welcome to our first episode of the second season of our podcast, For Pete's Sake. It is a podcast, for those of you that don't know, that covers a fan's perspective of everything Peterborough Pete's. We are excited to be back. We took a little hiatus vacation time over the summer, but we are super thrilled to be bringing you the first episode of the 2024-2025 season. I am your co-host, Josh Reeser. As always, in the chair next to me is co-host, twin brother, and encyclopedia of OHL knowledge, Matt Reeser. Like I said, has been a long summer without hockey. How was your summer? Anything that sticks out? Any big plans? Any big exciting news? Anything that happened to you over the summer? How was your time, despite the fact that there was no Pete's hockey to keep you going?
Yeah, just enjoyed the weather and time with family and friends, and yeah, not a lot to complain about. The weather was great this summer, and the Pete's are back, which is always exciting.
Yeah.
Even in the off season, I'm tracking them pretty.
I was gonna say how many times a day, even though it's nice outside and it's midsummer, and the Blue Jays are in action, and you can get outside and hike or whatever you do. How many times are you looking at Pete's News?
Yeah, I would say at least twice a week, not every day.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to see if there's any trades in the league or just what's on their website, and the Pete's do a great job of keeping fans updated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm pretty invested in the Pete's, have been for a long time, and I am excited to see what they bring to the table this year.
Absolutely. Well, my summer was busy this year. For those of you who don't know, I welcomed the first child into my family, little boy Ronald John Reeser, future left winger for the Peterborough Pete's. He is a bundle of joy. For any of you that have kids, it is a joyful but very tiring time, and it goes fast. I can't believe he is actually celebrating his 100th day on Earth today. So lots of fun with him, lots of fun with the wife and the kid, and making some memories already, but also many sleepless nights. So excited to see him grow up a Pete's fan and share the love of sports and hockey with him as he grows up.
Yeah, and when you say sleepless nights, that's like how London players feel when they have to play the Pete's, right?
Absolutely.
They can't sleep because they know we're going to take care of business.
Another thing Ron does is mess his pants, and I think a lot of London players are probably doing that, thinking about playing the Pete's too. So, absolutely. Well, anyways, this show is all about training camp and the first preseason game. We're going to talk through some of the storylines, expectations for the year, some roster decisions that need to be made, overagers, young guys, some of the prospects, how are they looking through camp, some of the moves they've already made, some of the moves they have to make. So this is kind of our preview to the year. It's a fun time of the year because everything is on the table. There's optimism around the air. It's like a new life has been breathed into the team, breathed into the fan base. You can feel that energy. I love this time of year where you're excited to see what these guys can bring, and I can't wait for the season to begin in just a couple short weeks. So we'll do some shout-outs to some former Pete's that have actually played in years past and had some great success at the next level. We're going to talk about expectations, like I said, heading into the rest of training camp and the preseason, as well as the regular season. We're going to recap some of the scrimmages, the maroon and white games. What did we see? Who stood out? Any big names and what that might mean for the season. We'll discuss the first round of cuts, any surprises there. What could those possibly mean for guys returning and new guys coming in? As always, there's some overage decisions. We'll touch on those as well. And then there has been a preseason game. It went down on Sunday, September 1st. Niagara and the Peterborough Pete's played in Port Hope. It was a barn burner for those of you that saw it, so we'll give our thoughts on what that means as well.
Undefeated.
Undefeated so far, spoiler alert. So we'll kick off with, like I said, just some recent graduates of the Petes and some players that played for the Petes several years back, but we remember fondly. We'll start with Stephen Lorentz. What a guy. Still remember him as one of the great leaders on the Petes. Worked his tail off while he was here. Just a great teammate, a great hard worker. Worked his way onto the Petes and then worked his way into the AHL and into the NHL, and he was rewarded with the ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup, as a member of the Florida Panthers. Originally was a 226th overall selection by the Peterborough Petes. It was a year later when he made his debut, and he never looked back. Became assistant captain in the 2016-2017 season, and he led them to the Eastern Conference Final with 16 points in 12 games in that playoff, and just you could tell was the heartbeat, one of the heartbeats of that team, if not the heartbeat. A very awesome guy. Everyone I've talked to says he was just a class act off the ice, a great guy for the young guys, and certainly deserves everything he's got. So he is officially got his name on the cup forever. Congratulations, Stephen Lorentz. Next one, Eric Stahl. He played a little longer ago. He has actually played 18 seasons in the National Hockey League and has called it a career. What a career it was. He had 455 goals, 608 assists for 1,063 points. 6 times he scored 30 goals. He is a 2010 Olympic gold medalist as well. So Eric Stahl is retiring from the National Hockey League. Played with the Carolina Hurricanes. They're actually going to retire his number 12 on January 12th, so exciting for him. Also had stints with the New York Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres, the Minnesota Wild, the Montreal Canadiens, and he ended with the Panthers, I believe.
Yeah.
Spent a year with so he got to play with his brothers a couple times. His brother Mark in Florida, and his brother Jordan, obviously, with the Canes.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Eric Stahl. What a beauty. What a beauty. And Scott Barney was named the head coach of the Sudbury Wolves. He played for the Peterborough Petes back in the 90s. Yeah. Great guy. Good player. Awesome forward. He will be a good presence for the Wolves. And I believe he was with the Humboldt Broncos.
Yeah.
He was in part of their coaching staff for a while and is now returning to the OHL as part of the Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah.
So congratulations to all 3 of those guys.
Yeah.
On a future episode, we'll take a look at kind of some more recent guys and where they are at NHL camps and stuff. But we just wanted to highlight those big accomplishments. They all came through the Pete's organization at one time or another, and it is awesome to see them go on and do great things.
Yeah. So. And, yeah, congrats to all of them, and some have great careers ahead of them, and some are wrapping them up. But once a Pete, you're always a Pete. So
absolutely,
we're just lucky we get to see these players in our hometown, and you never know who's going to come through in a Pete's uniform and who you're going to see on a weekly basis. So
yeah, for sure. All right, well now let's venture back to today and current times. We're going to discuss kind of what does a successful season look like in our minds for these Peterborough Petes. We all know we came off the high of winning that OHL Cup and going to the Memorial Cup 2 years ago. Last year was a bit of a rebuild as expected. And so what does season 2 of that rebuild look like? And how do we call it a successful season at the end of the day? Do you want to start us off in this section?
Yeah.
I can chip in a couple of my thoughts as well. But what does a successful season look like to you?
Yeah, I think it starts with their second-year players coming back and taking that next step.
Yep.
They've had their rookie season they got to develop a lot more than most rookies because they had to play them in big opportunities last year. So you're really looking at that Carson Cameron, Caden Taylor, Aiden Young, Nico Addy, Partridge, all those guys. You're looking at them to take that next step.
Yep.
Really take control of the team. Maybe one or two of them gets a letter. Maybe one just to kind of, start his leadership skills from the older guys. That's what I think will be a big storyline, whether this season kind of goes on the right track or you're seeing that next progression. I don't know if you agree with that or...
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's an absolutely huge point. It was a young team last year. We made all those moves at the deadline where we brought in 3 guys that were rookies.
Yeah.
And now they have that year under their belt and they're expected to take that progression, become leaders and continue their development and their play. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think where the Petes will end up in the standings and as a team, we've got some veterans in Page and Malie and Lefebvre and McCollum's back and we do have some D returning as well, but that have been here for a bit. But this is a young team. Like a lot of their core are first and second year players, and that goes with being a rebuild. And so I think to have success, you got to be able to count on those guys more than you did last year.
Yeah.
And they have to be up for the challenge.
Yeah.
So I think you're absolutely right.
Which I think leads into one of the other big things is taking that next step in games.
Yeah.
So getting that first goal. I don't know how many games last year kind of they got off to those slow starts.
Yep.
And they just couldn't dig out of it. Holding leads in tight games will be another one kind of indicator for me. Limiting the amount of shots on goal. I don't know how many nights the other teams were firing 20 plus shots on our goalie in one period.
Yep.
I think Stutsko was 3rd in the league in shots faced, and he played I think 16 less games than the guy in first place with the amount of shots he faced. So it was less games, and he was still right there. I think it was 40 shots he averaged per game if you go based on the stats, and that isn't really a recipe for success.
Yep.
So I think for them, then taking that next step of holding leads, getting out to better starts,
playing with leads too. I think that's part of it. Obviously, you can't hold a lead if you don't have it, but it's something you do need to learn is how to get a lead and play with a lead. You don't get when you get up with by a number of goals or by even a goal or two. Yeah. Not sitting back too much and not not being reckless at the same time. So you have to learn it. Yeah. So I think that's absolutely huge.
Yeah. And then I think it's going to come down to our blue line a lot.
Yep.
Last year we had a pretty young blue line. They have 8 guys returning this year. You want that blue line to be break out pucks well, play with an edge, but keep it disciplined as well, which I think they can do. They have a good anchor back there. They have 8 of them, like I said. So you've got Cameron coming back, Strohack, Lads, Holds, Haley, Valeris, Matichuk. They traded for Jankin.
Yep.
So they have a lot of D options, which I think is great because that internal competition is going to be there. If you're not bringing it every night, you're probably not getting in the lineup on a Wilson run team because he demands hard work.
Yep.
And playing kind of on that edge of
for sure
not dirty, but wanting their players to finish checks, jump up when they can help. And I think our blue line is going to have to be engaged in the offensive zone.
Agreed. Yeah. No, absolutely. I see that was a struggle last year. I would say their zone, their D zone at times. Breaking the puck out was hard. It comes with being a young team and figuring it out. A lot of guys are used to having the puck on their stick the whole time coming from their junior team or from their AAA team, and then all of a sudden you have to work harder to get it and steal it and keep it out of your net. Yeah. And you figure out, you have to go that extra bit. So I think having that year I think will really help. I think having experience on the back end, having time to develop that system and grow together, I think as well, I think is huge. You can't win if you're fishing the puck out of your net the whole time. So I'm looking for a strong bounce back in D. I think the special teams as well. I think both the penalty kill and power play can improve a bit.
Yeah.
I think penalty kill, it's tough because, like you said,
Yeah.
I think the Rob Wilson way is play tough.
Yeah.
And so it's naturally going to lead to a couple more penalties. And you're fine with it if it's a hard play.
Yeah.
You're not fine if it's a lazy play or if it's over the line. But when you're in the box the whole time, you're going to get exposed against teams that have a good power play. So staying disciplined, being tough, but being disciplined, it's something the young guys will have to learn. The leaders will have to show them. They've done they've been here, they get it.
Yeah.
A guy like McCollum stands out. You want his game is sandpaper.
Yeah.
He had a lot of penalties last year. But you don't want him to take it over the line where he's putting the team in a tough spot.
No.
So figuring that out. And then their power play, 28th in the league last year, 16.3 success rate. The funny thing is, it was even they didn't even have a great power play the year before when they won.
Yeah.
They were just able to. They had enough firepower 5-on-5 that it kind of evened out. But working on when you do get those chances from other teams. Finishing. So, again, young guys will be given more opportunity on the power play. And some of the guys who are older guys but were role players because they were behind some of the more offensive guys are now going to step up and be PP1, PP2 type guys too. So, I'm looking at improvements there as well.
Yeah. And when you turn over your roster so much, like last season, like it's hard to get a consistent power play. Guys working together all year, figuring out where a guy likes the puck, where he's going to play. It's tough, but I think taking your power play and being able to like kind of threaten the other team and them being a little scared to take a penalty is healthy.
For sure.
Because you want to kind of tire the other team out. Because if the other team's killing penalties, they're sending the same guys out, so they can't play as refreshed when they're even strength. So it kind of factors into the whole game. So becoming that type of team. I'm not saying they need to have the best power play in the league, but kind of getting up to that kind of 19-20% success rate, I think, pushes them into the playoffs.
Yeah, agreed. And then the goalie depth. Again, you touched on the depth that we have on D, like 8 returning defensemen.
Yeah.
This goalie depth, I'm looking at it. Stützle, Bowen, Rye, all returning. They all played games at some point for the Petes last year.
Yeah.
Stützle and Bowen were kind of the main guys, but Rye got in there for some games down the stretch, and he had that win against London that broke the winning streak London had.
Yeah.
And then you got young guys like Mason Johnson, Luka Jelena, who are like right there.
Yeah.
Even Dylan Leestack, like he had a pretty good camp. We'll talk about him coming up. Like it seems like we have a lot of depth there. So I'm curious. We'll talk about in a little bit what that means. Like, is there a move coming? Are they comfortable with that goalie depth? Having a good goalie is such a huge thing in the league. We know we have a great one in Stützle. Bowen was really great at times last year too. Rye had some moments. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at there, and then working in some young guys as well.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to actual training camp news? We'll start with the scrimmages. Anyone who was down and able to watch, I hope it was a great time. I was unable to make it there in person. Matt was out to a lot of the live scrimmages and the maroon and white game. I was streaming it from a computer. So I'll kind of give a little bit of an overall take, and then I'll let Matt kind of fill in more what he saw as the eyes that were there live. So scrimmages, if you're unaware, it was 2 days where they were broken off into 3 teams, and they played 25-minute runtime games against each other. 2 sessions of that in the morning, and then they were off for a couple hours, and then another session of games in the afternoon. So they did that over 2 days.
Yep.
And then there was the maroon and white game, which was a full simulated game with 20-minute periods, penalties and everything. and then right into the preseason. So from those scrimmages, what I saw, fast hockey,
Yeah.
which I like to see. I saw a lot of strong showing from the returning players. So guys like Page, who I know
Yeah.
play with a lot of pride. He put on a great show. You knew he was going to. He's a dog on a bone all the time.
Yeah.
One of the leaders of this team. Looks like he's absolutely ready to be a leader and
Yeah.
came in hungry. 4 goals and an assist. I was impressed with some of the second year guys as well. Caden Taylor had 4 goals and an assist. We all know he can shoot the puck like anything. Nico Addy, another one of the young guys, 4 assists. I don't want to take all the talking points away from you, but what I saw, very quick, a lot of return guys, and I will just say the guy that stood out to me, I was very impressed with Aiden Young.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys. We don't have time to mention absolutely every single person, so sorry if we skip over someone. But there's 2 guys actually I want to mention. Aiden Young, I thought looked like the puck just followed him. Like he was buzzing. He was all around the puck. He looked creative. He looks like a guy that has great hands. And looked like he drove a lot of the play.
Yep.
And I was impressed with Dylan Wolds,
Yep.
Defenseman, young guy last year. Didn't get a ton of time. He was kind of blocked by the depth they had on D, but he looked like in training camp very steady.
Yep.
Made great decisions. Played, it was good offensively from the D and defensively. And so I think he's a guy that, given the chance, could turn some heads this year.
The biggest compliment you can give about him is when you don't notice him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't make glaring mistakes out there. He just makes the safe play.
Yep.
And that's what you want from a defenseman.
Yep.
He looked really good. Really impressed. I liked him last year.
Yeah.
I like him even better now. I hope he gets a chance to really show his stuff because I think he's earned it. But we'll let the coaches decide that. But from my perspective, he was very noticeable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who else? Any other returning players? What was your overall? So we'll start with that. Your overall take from the scrimmages.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts being down there live?
Yeah. So like Josh said, it was fast. The goalkeeping was fantastic. There was a lot of big saves from the young guys from Stutska. Lee Stack played, I thought, really well. Mason Johnson didn't let a goal in till the second day, I don't think. Jalna came in cold on the first shootout and made 2 huge saves.
Yeah.
So the goalkeeping is still strong. Matichuk was jumping up into the play, and kind of controlling from the back end, which you like to see. McCallum was his normal self. He actually fought a guy.
I saw that.
In one of the games, they kind of had a little scrum at center ice, and why not do that? I mean, why not get the intensity up? And that kind of started making the games a little bit more physical towards the end. And that's the hockey you kind of expect from this team. So that was great. Colin Fitzgerald looks like he's a second or third year player, the size of him. His finish is really, really good.
Yep.
He scored 3 goals. Turcotte looked good. He played on a line with Fitzgerald for a lot of the games. He scored 3 goals as well, so he's got that finishing ability.
For those of you, I'm just going to jump in. Turcotte was the U18 pick this year.
Yeah,
third overall.
Yeah. So they're 2 guys that they kind of picked high.
Yep.
Perform well. Gowan was his steady self back there.
Yep.
Brody Leet, he went end to end and scored the goal of the inter squad games. Francis Parrish and Ben Sherwin were 2 guys that are younger. And for me, it's their ability to just find the open ice. Francis Parrish was blocking shots. He was finding the open lane. Sherwin was playing with McCallum and just had that natural chemistry with him. He was going to the net hard. He was going to the right areas. He was being rewarded, scored 2 goals. I liked Raiden Dockstetter. He's one of their picks from this year. One of their later picks. He was creative. He finished when he had the ability. And the first goal of camp was a guy beating out an icing, getting hit off his feet, getting back up, going to the net, taking a pass, and finishing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what you want to see.
That hustle and that never give up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then two other guys quickly. Justin Ouellette was relentless. He kind of reminded me of a younger Page, just all over the ice.
Nice.
And then Kyle Secco, who was an invite to camp, was great offensive instincts for a defenseman. Got a bunch of points, was moving the puck well. So there was a lot of young guys that I was impressed with. It's just tough when you're a young guy trying to make a team with a lot of spots that are kind of not there.
Yeah,
and when
there's
there's
a lot of
rules
spots
that
that
do
are-
things, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can only have 4 16-year-olds.
Right.
So 2 of them are your first 2 picks, so Fitzgerald and Gowan. So now you're down to signing 2 more of them.
Yep. Yeah.
It makes it hard for a young guy to come to a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you almost have to outshine
Yeah.
someone who's been here because
Yeah.
the coach is familiar with them, so
Yeah.
you have to come in and beat out someone's spot and
Yeah.
actually physically take it from them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on the young guys, and I thought a lot of them made very, very strong impressions. Some of them, it'll come down to a numbers game, and there isn't a spot for them yet.
Yeah.
But like you said, I saw a lot of good things and a lot of moments that'll make the Petes think and open their eyes, and maybe it's not this year, maybe it's down the line.
Yeah.
So
Lawrence
very
didn't make
encouraged.
the Petes his first year.
Yep, exactly.
And then he leads the team in playoff points in
Yep.
the year they go to the Eastern Conference Final.
Yep.
So
Wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll just quickly mention, so the 9th overall import pick, they got Adam, I'm going to mess his name up, Novantini.
Novatoni, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't in attendance for main camp, and he's hoping to sign with the Czech pro team. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. I think they sign him with the intention that might happen. Mm-hmm. They're hoping to get him over here, but he's young enough that he could come next year even.
Right.
So we'll just have to keep monitoring and see what happens there.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, like you stay at home, you get paid to play hockey.
Yeah.
You play with men if you make the team over there, so it's not super surprising. It's disappointing. I know they had reported that the brass from the Petes were over there doing some scouting. They really wanted to get a good, impact import, and this is the second year in a row where our first rounder has, it looks like probably not reporting to the Petes. We lost Perdeller, who was, a part of our top 6. So it hurts, but I do get it. And, we're not closing the door yet.
No.
Like you said, but
Yeah.
yeah. I would have liked to see him play.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, then the maroon and white game was the following night. So that's where teams were split up into 2 different squads. A bit more of a simulated hockey game. Always a good time. I was unfortunately, again, not able to make it. I watched some of it. I was able to stream some of it online. Again, I saw fast-paced hockey. I liked what I saw. It was maroon 3, white 2 at the end of the day. So lower scoring, 3-2 hockey game. I saw quick stuff. I saw strong games from some of the young guys again. And what did you see live? I know you were at the game. It's easier to explain kind of the energy and stuff you're seeing when you're actually physically at the rink. So what did you see there?
So the thing that really stood out to me in the game was Lads was making these really, really solid, taking guys off the puck, breaking up plays in his defensive end, like the best I've seen him in camp. So he really, really, I thought, rose to the top on the back end. And then Caden Taylor was all over the net. He scored, but he had a lot of chances. He was setting guys up. He was looking for passes. I thought it was his best all-around game, which was nice to see. And then you had your 2 top forward picks from this draft scoring. You had Colin Fitzgerald getting a goal, and then you had Adam Levesque scoring 2 goals for the Maroon team. So you had your young guys coming in and contributing offensively, which I think was a great sign because you didn't have Page, Malee, McIntyre in this game.
Yeah.
And when those guys aren't playing or when you have an injury, can your younger guys score and lead the offense?
Yep.
And I know it's not against other teams, but the fact that the team that won with 2 rookies scoring all their goals, I think is a great sign.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what my thoughts on the game were.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, I would agree. Some of the veteran players, like we said, Page, Millie, McIntyre, Wold, Stutska, Bowen, and Rye resting. So they want to give the younger guys a chance to show what they can do. I thought a lot of them did. Colin Fitzgerald, again, like you mentioned, he's just come in with a swagger that, like, he doesn't look intimidated.
No.
He looks like he's, yeah, I can play at this level, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
I don't want to put too much pressure on him because it is a tough league. It's tough to come in as a 16-year-old and play in the OHL unless you're a generational talent. You don't often see guys just dominate.
Yeah.
Maybe Colin Fitzgerald will, but we have to, keep expectations level. But having said that, sometimes you see guys that are a little bit more timid, and he doesn't look that way at all, which is a very encouraging sign.
Yeah.
Adam Levesque, yeah, another guy that kind of jumped off the page at both training camp and Maroon game, chipping in with a couple goals.
Yeah.
And I agree with Caden Taylor. From what I saw,
Yeah.
it was a name that was just all over the puck,
Yeah.
flying. He's a guy that's going to be counted on for a large portion of their offense.
Yeah.
So great to see, and more good goalkeeping.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The only thing I saw that other note I'll mention is at one point Valeris hit Haley and Haley skated him back, Valeris back to his bench, and then whacked him, slashed him onto the bench and started screaming at him from the ice, which was pretty funny to watch.
Yeah.
But it was just, they were just kind of, you get
Yeah.
their blood boiling and you kind of get,
Yeah, I did see. Sorry, at one point McCullum go down.
Yeah. Haley hit him.
Haley hit him, and he kind of went off gingerly. I think he's okay. Is what we haven't heard that he'll be out for any extended period of time. But it's always a bit nerve wracking.
Yeah.
With a guy like that plays with kind of reckless abandon and
Yeah.
is hard on his own body. You want him being
Yeah.
ready to go for the season. So hopefully he's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that'll bring us into some of the rosters decisions. The Petes did make some cuts in and around training camp. Some of them were after the scrimmages. Some of them were after that maroon and white game. Some of them the day of the preseason game. And there will be a couple more coming down the chute as well. So first cuts, the Petes started off camp with 57 skaters and 6 goalies. They're currently down to 28 and 5. They have returning players at all positions. So forwards, they have 11 returning forwards. They have 8 returning D, and they have 3 returning goalies. So like we've been talking about, tough for those young guys to break in. It breeds a lot of competition, which I think helps guys develop. And will really take a strong performance to push a veteran out of that place that they've earned for a couple seasons now. It is great to have depth, but it's also a balancing act. I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well. You want to develop players and give them meaningful games. You also don't want to throw them to the wolves. So I don't know how you make that decision. As a coach, do you lean more towards your veterans? Do you fire the young guys in there? Do you kind of take it game by game? I don't know your thoughts on that. As you know, the Petes are kind of, like we said, year 2 of a rebuild. How would you be focusing on the roster deployment and what that means for the young guys?
I think he always has a good pulse on his team, like this coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And I think if a guy's performing and they think he's not scared and they're going to do it in the right timing for the players. I think they're going to give them chances to succeed, but they're going to have a plan for each particular player. One might be a little faster, one might be a little slower. One might be like, hey, this guy's an offensive guy. He could make the team. He's impressed, but we're going to let him be reassigned and go and play minutes instead of just sitting up here on a 3rd or 4th line. So I think the coaching staff does a good job of that. I don't question any of their decisions, but I think you need to find that balance of what can this player do? Is it helpful for him to be here? And for some of the players it's a yes, and for other players it's, it's no. Let's just, we know he could be on the team, but let's just give him a chance to go back and develop a skill or a skill here or there, and then maybe at the end of the year you call him up for a few games to reward him for that.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if you see a few of the guys come up for a few games or throughout the year, just to kind of get their feet wet.
Yeah, and the vibe I get from the Pete's is if you force us to play you, we will.
Yeah.
Like on some teams, it might be we're gonna go with a veteran lineup, and you're not gonna play no matter what. My read on the Pete's is you outwork a guy and you put in the time and the effort. There's a shot. You're gonna get your shot. Which you appreciate as a young guy. We're gonna get you in there, and so just don't get too comfy as a vet. And as a young guy, keep pushing. So I think that's the way I would do it. I think that's the way the Pete's typically have done it. And it like you said, breeds competition, breeds development, and that's why that's the way we do it. So we'll go into a couple of the cuts. The surprise to me was actually watching Dylan Turcotte. We mentioned his name, a U18 pick from this year, 3rd overall, from the Ottawa region, I believe. But I thought he had a really, really strong camp. He was finishing well. He played a lot with Fitzgerald. And then was released or reassigned. I think it was after the maroon and white game. I was a bit surprised at that. I thought they might give him a bit longer of a look. So whether it could be they want him to play more meaningful minutes and he would get more top 6 time on a junior team, or on a like on a not on an OHL team yet, or whether it's a wait and see if later in the year they can call him back up. But he's a name I kind of raised an eyebrow a little bit when I saw he had been reassigned, because I thought his camp had gone very, very well. Having said that, I am in no way questioning the Pete's brass. They're in and around the guys. They know what they're doing. I will always give them the benefit of the doubt. But that was the one that surprised me. I don't know if you had any names that kind of jumped off the page in that round of cuts, but Turcotte was one for me that I thought had made a case for potentially a little bit longer look, and was reassigned.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to what the rules allow you in the OHL. I think a couple of their 16-year-olds, if you're allowed to play more than 4, might be around a little bit longer. But why would you keep them around if they're not going to be part of the plan, and see what you have with the other guys, right? So, for me, the Doxeter guy that scored the first goal, I thought he looked incredible. I thought Ouellette looked incredible. A lot of the guys, and we're saying this with all respect too, none of these guys are bad hockey players. They're all reassigned. Doesn't mean they're all great skaters. They all gave everything they had to the Pete's while they were on the ice. So there's nothing negative I can say about them. They all had moments where they stood out, but at times it's just you're a young guy and there's not 4 spots. Or with a Turcotte, and I think this is probably why they let him go. I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but you would have wanted him to play in the top 6, and I don't think there's a top 6 spot for him. I think he would have been playing 3rd or 4th line and be getting few minutes. He's not going to be in front of Young, McCallum, Lefebvre, Fitzgerald, Addy,
Maley,
Taylor, Malee, McIntyre. So you do really want that? Is the question.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. It could just come down to numbers. It was just a name that I saw. He had a really strong rookie camp back in the spring, and then it looked like another strong camp here, and to see him reassigned. But there's reasons for everything. I'm sure he's disappointed, but he, I think, did definitely put himself in the mind of the Pete's for future years, maybe even later this year. So keep your head up and keep up the good work. All players that were reassigned. It's not the end of the road for you at all. And then on the flip side, there were some players signed to their OHL scholarship and development contracts. So Cenk Ula, a 5th-round pick, 99th overall. Adam Levesque, a 5th-round pick, 85th overall. Mason Johnson, a 6th-round pick, 112th overall last year's draft. And Thanasi Marintet, a 10th-round pick, 196th overall in last year's draft as well, signing their OHL scholarship and development contracts. So congratulations to all of them. I'm intrigued to see what they can do. Hard work pays off. Some of those guys were reassigned last year. Mason Johnson and Marintet, I know, played with the U18 Peterborough Petes. So a good year of development there, and are now back and have forced themselves into the conversation. So
Yep.
just shows you what you can do with some hard work and development. Some overage decisions. We mentioned off the top, the Petes have some overagers returning. Jonathan Malee, captain last year. Chase Lefebvre. Ryder McIntyre came over from a trade with the Oshawa Generals last year. Played about half the year, maybe a little bit more here. And Liam Stutska in goal. Originally, Quinn Binney was in the mix as well. He was reassigned before the game against Niagara, the first preseason game. So there's 4 names there. Jonathan Malee, the captain, I think he's back. I would be shocked. And then it's Lefebvre, McIntyre, Stutska. I don't know. I think there's a case where you could do it. You did at the start of last year where you have 4 around typically and you just rotate through some guys. I know it's not as ideal.
Yeah.
Last year they had a similar thing where they kept 4 overagers around with Lockhart and Dubois and can't remember the defenseman. Gouvreau. And then they had to shuffle those guys through until Lockhart was eventually
Traded, yeah.
dealt, and they ended up trading Dubois later on as well. But I wonder if you consider that until you make, see where the team. It just gives you a chance to see where the team is, where they are in the standings, what the team's made of, and do you need to move a guy? I don't know. I'll ask you the tough question. I know it's a tough one we don't want to answer. I'll give you my take on it after. But those 4 names, are there 3 that jump out to you that you're keeping if it's your decision? And again, no disrespect to any of these players. They're all phenomenal players. They've been big parts of the Petes. We don't have any inside information. This is just our gut. What are your thoughts on those returning guys?
We're going based on who they skill or what we think they should do.
What you would do, what you think will happen.
I think most likely they'll keep 3.
Yeah.
I think it'll be Stutska, Malee, and Lefebvre.
Yeah.
I would like them to keep Stutska, Lefebvre, Stutska, Malee, and McIntyre. And see what you can get for Lefebvre. But I also don't want them to log jam the goalies, and I want to see what we have.
Yeah.
And if Stutska's back, you're probably going Stutska Bowen. So is Rye going to have another year of not really playing and seeing what you have? You need to see what you have in goalies at some point.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see them get more than what they got for Simpson last year. If they're going to do any trades.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I say McIntyre over Lefebvre is McIntyre was a former captain.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to need some good leadership. And at camp, McIntyre always was surrounded by rookies and was always making them feel welcome and talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is more valuable right now for where they are, is having him and Malee kind of in the room together, making sure the young guys feel part of the team so that they have that idea of what a good captain is when they take over.
Yeah.
And the room is in a good spot. I think that's more important than what. And I love Lefebvre. He's one of my favorite players, so it's crushing me to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, it's a tough call. I again trust the Pete's brass. Last year, I think I didn't pick any of the 3 to come back that they ended up picking, and then Jax Dubois was great.
Yeah.
The Gouvreau was strong, and Lockhart had a decent start to the year while he was here, and then we ended up shipping him off, and I think I don't know. Liam Stützle was your MVP last year. He's a phenomenal goalie. He's an elite goalie. He can drag you to wins by himself. I think if I'm reading into it again, fans' perspective, I have no inside information on this. The fact that you signed Mason Johnston to that
Yeah.
scholarship means he's a goalie that's going to play some sort of role in the future.
Yeah.
And if that's what your thought is, you need to develop him in a way that gives him a chance to succeed, which means you don't keep him behind for that long. I think they like what they've seen the last two camps, and I think they want to continue to give him a chance to progress. Um, so I think potentially that might have even tipped their hand in what they're thinking
Yeah.
by signing him. I hate to say it because Liam Stützle's one of my favorite goalies to watch in recent memory because he's just like so dialed in.
Stoic.
And he's stoic and he was just amazing. Like there was one game last year in particular where we shut out Mississauga. We won 4-0, and we were outshot huge. He made some like 10 bell saves against Porter Martone, and he was just like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like he ended up winning OHL Player of the Week that week, and it was just like this kid is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I hate to say that, but I think what I'm seeing potentially is a Malie, Lefebvre, McIntyre come back. They go with 3 veteran forwards that can continue to contribute on the ice and be a leader, be leaders around the young guys.
Yeah.
And then, hand kind of the goalie reins off to
The next
maybe
generation.
Bowen and Rye, maybe get Johnson some games this year, and kind of work towards that next generation. I'm also thinking like where I see the Petes this year is where Mississauga was last year. A young team that's good. I think they're a playoff team if they play up to their potential, but I don't know if they're contenders yet. I think they're a year away from that. And so, in that sense, making the playoffs should be a goal. I think meaningful games down the stretch will be huge for their development.
Yeah.
I think getting some playoff reps, whether you win a series or not, will be huge.
Yeah.
But they're not quite ready to strike yet.
No.
So Liam Stützle, on one hand, can literally win you maybe 5-10 games throughout the year that you shouldn't win.
Yeah.
So he could drag you into the playoffs if you're struggling. But also, like, is he, he's a goalie that you, on a contending team, is so attractive, kind of like put you over the edge.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Petes are quite at that edge yet.
Yeah.
So I think it's a time where you see what is out there for him. I hate saying this because I love Stützle. Maybe you get a bevy of picks, and then when it's time to move those picks to bring in a player that helps because you're ready to be a contender again,
Yeah.
you can move those picks
Yeah.
for a guy, and I think maybe that happens next year or the year after.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it. I just see from where their team is right now what they should be expecting. I think it's Malie, Lefebvre, McIntyre. I will not be disappointed at all if Stützle's back. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I think you can make an argument for any of them, and they've all been great Petes, and it's a tough call, but I think the 3 forwards and Stützle's moved at some point is what my gut's telling me.
Yeah.
So, anyways, after all that, time will tell. We'll let people much smarter in hockey than us and who actually have a say make those decisions, and we'll support the boys no matter what. The Petes did have their first preseason game, and it was a barn burner. It was in Port Hope. The Petes played the Niagara Ice Dogs, and it was 8-7. Watch this game on YouTube. Watch the link. Again, 8-7. A great game for the fans. Probably not the score you want to see if you're a coach, especially a defensive coach. But I'm not panicking with that.
No.
because Matt and I were talking before the show. In preseason, you want to see, are the guys coming in, are they conditioned?
Hmm.
Do they look like they can match this speed? Are they intimidated?
Yeah.
And then as a player, you're trying to showcase what you can do,
Yeah.
and you're trying to, make a spark. And so sometimes that causes you to, perhaps take a chance that you jump out of the structure a bit and try and jump off the page.
Yeah.
So that can lead to some higher scoring games. It certainly did in this one, an 8-7 win for the Petes in a shootout. I saw just generally, I'll get your take on it as well. What I saw was what I think could be a little like micro, a little like small sample of what the Petes year could be like on a whole with such a young team, and that's a little bit of like inconsistency and having to figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
So I thought, started off strong, got up 5-2, and then got into some penalty trouble, had some trouble in their own end. Niagara kind of took over for a bit, scored,
5 straight.
5 straight goals, and then the Petes figured it out and they battled back.
Yeah.
And they were able to win, and there's a testament to that right there. But I think with such a young team, over the course of the year, we're going to see ups, we're going to see downs.
Yeah.
It's part of developing, and being a young team, and so we got to make sure we keep our expectations managed. I think this team will take a step from last year, absolutely. I think they're a playoff team. I think they have a lot of excitement, a lot of progress, but it's going to be a learning curve because it's a tough league and we have a young team. And so I think we saw a bit of that just in that first game there. Chase Lefebvre was awesome. Absolute snipe on his second goal of the game.
Yeah.
He ended up scoring a hat trick. Caden Taylor added another goal. Nico Addy, I thought, looked pretty decent. He had a lot of chances and put one in. Nice to see. Yeah, Strohack jumped up and played well. I thought Zach Bowen looked like he was pretty calm back there.
Mm-hmm.
Made some decent saves. Mason Johnson, I think, probably started a little shaky, and then got better as the game went on. I think he would love to have that second goal scored on him back, particularly the 5-hole one. But then made some huge saves in the shootout against Rolbrack and who's the other guy? Asalainen, is that his name?
Asadorian.
Asadorian, who are big time players for the Ice Dogs. So good on them to not be intimidated, to have that short memory, get right back to it. Bit of discipline problem for the Petes. Need to work on the penalty kill. But like I said, that structure for shorthanded and defensive zone coverage can come in practice once we have the team together. For right now, I saw some good things. Nice to get a win. Nice to show we can put up some points. So I'll hand it over to you. I've been talking for a while now. I don't want to just hear my voice, but that's what I saw. And I don't know what your thoughts are on the game as well.
Yeah. Didn't love the slow starts, the periods. Niagara scored the first goal in every single period.
Yep.
Coming out of into a period, I think you need to kind of tidy that up again. But that's, again, one game. Not reading too much into that. When a Niagara scores a goal and then you take a undisciplined penalty right after and that leads to another goal, that's kind of deflating, and you can't have those moments on a team where it's going to be hard to score goals and you got to score by committee. So every time you're giving the other team an opportunity to score, when they're already got the momentum, is dangerous, especially when you're a young team. So that's just a little bit of an alarming trend in this game. But again, there's been games around the league in preseason that have been like 10-6, 10-3.
Yeah.
This isn't just the Petes
Yeah.
that are getting 7 goals scored on them.
Yeah.
I love that Mason Johnson, once he gave up those 3 goals, didn't let anything go in and shut the door down so that it didn't get out of hand. So they had a chance to come back in. I love that factor.
Yeah.
Levesque and Fitzgerald were both up like 40 to 50% on draws. Face-off winning is very difficult skill to master. Usually the upper kind of
For sure.
year players win the draws, but Levesque and Fitzgerald were winning draws clean against like 3rd, 4th year Niagara Ice Dog players.
Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say about it is, yeah, defensively, the Pete's might have been a little bit off at some points, but I would argue that 3 of their top 4 defensemen weren't in this game.
Mm.
So Cameron, Carson Cameron wasn't back there. Lads wasn't back there. Wolds wasn't back there. Jankin, who they traded for, wasn't in the lineup.
Yep.
There's 4 of your defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess.
And then McIntyre,
Yeah.
who's not a defenseman, but he's
Yeah.
he's a responsible forward.
Yeah. Page, McCallum,
Yeah.
Ali.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, you've got guys that are going to play in their own end. And
Yep.
I would say Lads and Wolds, their job this year is going to be that shutdown defensive role on
Yep.
the pairing they're on.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't in the game.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say with a broad statement like, oh, defensively, because it's not their lineup.
Yeah.
No offense to the guys in this game, but
Yeah.
those guys are going to be playing on opening night probably.
Yeah, for sure.
I would wager pretty strongly on that
Yeah.
those 4 will be in your top 6 defense when the opening night face-off
Absolutely.
happens.
Absolutely.
And then, so, like, there's not a lot. And then the one thing that we forget is, like, a big physical defenseman like Gowan isn't going to start throwing huge hits in a preseason game.
Yeah.
His game is physicality and playing in his own end. If you go into preseason and you start taking runs at people and hitting people hard, I mean, there's just that respect level you have in preseason that guys are getting ready for the season, and you don't want to do too much. You want to still finish your checks,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to want to see him play physical, which he's been doing. Like, he still takes
Yeah,
guys
I
in
would
the
say
corner.
you don't want to go out of your
Yeah.
way and like take yourself out of position to be too physical.
Yeah.
Is I think what you're trying
Yeah.
to say, because I think he does.
Yeah.
If the opportunity's there for a big hit, I think
Yeah.
he takes it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to run around
No.
and cost your team either a penalty or 2-on-1s
Yeah.
or because you're trying to be too much of what
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think one thing that was in the game, I don't know if you saw it, but Gowan took a headshot early in the game, and that's kind of what started the barrage of penalties in the game. Mm-hmm. So you've got the Petes sticking up for each other, which is what you want to see at the start of the season. Is this a tight group? Is this a group that's going to let you like hit their rookies and get away with it?
Yeah.
And that's not what's going to happen with the Petes. I can promise you, if you kind of go against one guy in the Petes, you're going to have guys coming at you.
Yeah.
Not dirty, but Gowan got hit, and then Valeris knocks the guy over.
Yeah.
Or Haley comes at him and gives him a little shot. Like those things.
For
So
sure.
I was encouraged that they were able to put 8 goals in the back of the net, because how many times last year did they struggle to put
get
2 or
offense
3
going.
in
Yeah.
the net? So,
Yep, you're not wrong. Not wrong.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
overall, I thought it was a good start. There's things to tidy up, but overall, there's a lot of positives in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about this on after the game. I think this is potentially 2 teams that could have battles late in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The next couple years.
Yeah.
I think where where Niagara and where the Petes are is very similar.
Yeah.
Both were bad teams last year. Have high draft picks. You look at Waslin coming in. Robrick. Is it what's his name?
Azadorian.
Azadorian. And then on the flip side with the Petes, Carson Cameron. You have those second guys in Young and Taylor and Addy, and then you add in Fitzgerald. Like, I think they're kind of on a similar trajectory, and so I'm actually intrigued to see these teams battle over the next couple of years, and I'm predicting that this could be even like an Eastern Conference final battle at some point.
Yep.
So I think a cool little rivalry could be started, and I think we saw bits and pieces in that preseason game.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And yeah, the last thing, this is kind of not related to this, but a news and note. You remember Adam Valentini,
Yes.
who was up in the draft, and then he kind of
Yep.
slid down to
Yep.
Brampton Steelheads.
Yeah.
He's not reporting to the Steelheads.
Okay.
So probably
So
somebody knew that. But
Yeah.
he's actually going to the USHL and then signing with Michigan State to play
Gotcha.
NCAA hockey. So that's
They
probably
must have
why
known. Yeah.
he's not. We kind of slid down the draft board a little bit,
Yeah.
but it happens.
Yeah.
Overall, good week for the Petes, and we look forward
Absolutely.
to kind of giving you more information as it comes up.
For sure. Yeah, no, we are absolutely thrilled to be back. It was an hour-long show here. We did have lots of things to cover and get back into the swing of things. We hope to have a next episode for you next week. So we're going to be releasing these guys weekly. Our goal is Wednesday episodes, so we're going to try and release episodes on a consistent weekly basis. And you can find them on our Facebook page. You can also find them on the link on our Instagram page, which is at for PTB Pete's Sake. The Facebook page is For Pete's Sake, and they are also posted to Spotify under the name For Pete's Sake. If you want to get in contact with us, you can comment on any of our social media sites that we just listed, and our email address, which is at forptbpetessake@gmail.com. Next episode, we'll have more player updates, more roster decisions to report, and there'll be 2 preseason games against the Storm and the Sudbury Wolves to recap. So we'll have more news and notes for you and analysis. Hope you liked our first episode back. We are excited for another season. And as always, go Pete's, go!